is something else that I need to teach you, which is quite important. It's called absolute and relative cell referencing. Has anyone come across this before? Okay, so what I'd like you to do, to learn about this, if you go on to your salaries worksheet. So that's salaries, and it should look like that one on the board. Make it a little bit bigger for those of you at the back. There we go. Okay? Everyone with me? Okay, so on your salaries worksheet, and again, this is just an example, but if you imagine you're a personnel officer in payroll, you'll have a massive list of all of the employees in your company, and you might have information on their basic salary and a bonus. So what you'll see is in cell E5, if I double click this cell, you can see that my formula is C5 plus D5, so that's the basic plus the bonus. One of the beauties of formulas is if that bonus changes, so I'm going to give Mr. James a bonus of £500, then my formula is reflectant on that cell, so the formula changes, so the result changes as well, and it automatically updates as you would expect. The other thing to notice, we've done a lot of work today with autofill. Remember the little black cross in the bottom right hand corner? Well, if I just delete this information for you, if I put that formula in once, I could then move down and do the same, equals that one, oops, sorry, I'll do that again, equals that cell plus that cell, and then enter. And then I can carry on down and carry on down and carry on down. And again, a little bit like the sum for functions, people don't tend to do that because it might take them quite a long time. So what you can do is you can click on the autofill. So again, let me delete that. So when you put your first one in, you can click on the autofill in the bottom right hand corner, and you can click and drag. And that will fill the contents down. But this is where it gets quite important. That information that's been filled is relative to where the answer is. So I put in C5 plus D5. But in the cell below, it's moved down to C6 plus D6, relative to where the answer is. And if I move down here, I've got C9 plus D9. The location of the points within the formula. Perfect, yes. So it's very important that that information is relative, because I don't want to have an annual salary figure for Mr. James in the whole row. I want Mr. James, Mrs. Horton, Mr. Corner, and so on and so forth. So Excel, by default, puts in relative cell referencing. And generally, that's what you want. We're going to learn about how that might fall down. So, if you go through to your wage increase spreadsheet. So first of all, we have a formula in here that you will learn in the next session, Excel 2, is linked from that other spreadsheet. Okay, don't worry too much about that now, you will learn it again soon. But what we're looking at is absolute and relative. So that formula is the salaries, Mr. James's salary. If I autofill down and join me, then I get Mr. Horton's salary, Mr. Corner's, Mr. Watley's, and so on and so forth. Now what I want to do is I want to work out a pay rise for all of my staff. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to see what happens if I increase their pay by 4.4%. I could put in equals that one, so their salary, and I could multiply that by 4.4%. I could do that manually. But if I decided I had more money in the pot, I would need to go into every single solution and change it to 5%, and then maybe change it to 6%. So a much better option would be to have that information in a cell, referencing that cell, and then I can change it as much as I like and all of the information will reflect. Is everyone with me? Okay, so I've got, have a go at doing this. We've got Mr. James's salary multiplied by the percentage increase and then accept the contents. And what I'd like you to do is to then fill that down. And you'll see that there's some errors. Now, if I'm Mr. Watley, I'm a very happy gentleman because my pay is quite a lot this year. But if I'm the managing director of a company, I'm very likely to go bankrupt very quickly. So this is very important to get this concept. So what I'd like you to do is have a look at these formulas and tell me why Mr. Watley is getting a pay rise of £10 million. Remember, you can double click and things change colours, so somebody tell me why you think that he has got an error with his pay rise.
Put C4 in and then it goes down to C5, C6, so it kind of adds it all up.
Perfect, Britta, yes. So if I illustrate that, the first cell here is B6 times C3. Now, relative cell referencing means that, let me just check, that was blue and green. So, in this cell, the blue part is this one. So that cell has that as part of the formula. The green part is this one. And that cell, relative, is 1, 2, 3 up, relative to its position. So if I then take that lower down and I get to Mr. Watley here, if we use the same principle, his should be 1 across, which is that one. But this will be 1, 2, 3. That one. And obviously, that's not the 4.4%, that's somebody else's salary. So lastly, if we take this right down to Mr. Andrews here, who's taking his money out of his bank and leaving the country as fast as possible, he's got £18,000, but that's being multiplied by 1, 2, 3, by 10 million. So that's why there is a problem there. So relative cell referencing, we want half of this formula to be relative, because we want half of this formula to be that person's salary and that to move down. But the other half of the formula, we want it to stay fixed on this cell, no matter where the answer is. And that means that that is absolute. It's absolutely always going to be the same cell. Best way to think of it. The way to make a cell absolute is, if I have relative referencing, then I've got, I think it was C3, was it? C3. If I want to make that absolute reference, then I, just let me move this down. To make something from relative to absolute, I put in a $sign in front of each part. Just to illustrate in front of each part, if that was D24, I only have to put it in front of the letter and the numbers. I don't have to put it in front of each number. Okay, so 24 or 245, or whatever that cell is. So when I take a reference and I put it in with $signs, it fixes it. It makes it absolutely always in the same place. So, shall we see how that looks? What we're going to do is we're going to do the same formula, completely the same, and then we're going to change it. So, if you click where you want the answer, rule number 1, and this time in the absolute area. So, we've got equals the annual salary of Mr. James multiplied by the percentage increase. Before we come out of this, we want to fix that cell. So what we can do, there's two methods of doing this. I'll show you the long-winded way and then the shortcut. So the long-winded way is to go up into the formula bar and click in front of the C and to put in a $sign and to click in front of the 3 and put in a $sign. When I accept those cell contents, and if I then drag down, then I get real values, because that C3 is still fixed. But importantly, B12, or the B part, is relative. Is everyone okay with that? Do you want to learn the shortcut? So, delete everything that's there. And we'll do it one more time. Same method, equals the salary multiplied by the percentage increase. Now, instead of going up and putting a $sign in front of the C and a $sign in front of the 3, when I've clicked the cell that I want to fix, I can press my F4 key on my keyboard. And when I press it, voila, it puts in $signs for me. Now that key is a toggle key. So if you keep pressing it, it cycles round all of the different options available. But you want a $sign in front of both at this level. Once you're happy with that, you can accept the contents and copy down. If you're multiplying, i.e. not taking away, then obviously it doesn't matter which order you put these in. So just to illustrate, if I put in equals and I put that one first, then I just press the F4 key and I can carry on after that, finishing off my formula, and it works in exactly the same method. It's just that I put that part in first, it doesn't matter. Lastly, if you've put a formula in and you've forgotten to make it absolute, so if I go equals that one multiplied by that one, and then I go, oh, and I go to copy it down, and I realise I've forgotten. It happens a lot. What you can do is go back to the first one, and you can click in the formula bar anywhere touching the C or the 3. In the middle, on the right, on the left. So if I click there, and then I can press my F4 key. So I can go back, correct my mistakes, and then drag down that information. Any questions?
So the answer in the relative and absolute you have to be
the relative cell is the one that you want to increment, and the absolute cell is the one you want to keep fixed. So the point is, they can be in any order. You can have the relative one if it's multiplied. If it was one take away the other, then obviously you'd have to put them in the right order. But because it's multiplication sum that we're doing here, you can have that cell first or that cell second. The important thing is that you fix or make absolute the right cell. And that's easily done when you do the method that I said. Instead of typing the cells in, you click on the cells and you can see, oh, I've just clicked on that one. That one needs to stay fixed, so I'm going to press my F4 key.
Now is just the say, if you go on the relative, you multiply the cell with the location of let's say Mr. Pierce.
Okay, so let's say Mr. Pierce, yeah?
Right. So on the relative, because you are using the same percentage, so on the under the absolute increment, the relative increment.
Yes, because we haven't put dollar signs in front of this, then this one stays relative by default and increments. So like you say, it's Mr. Pierce. But because we've put dollar signs in front of that one, no matter where you are, it'll always be that cell because that's absolute. Okay? So, what I'd like you to do is have a go yourselves. Now, we have some exercises, and what I'd like to do is have a go at exercise 2. Now, you will need your exercise file for this, so the Excel intro exercise file. If you're struggling, there is a 2A. Try not to use it, because it does give you a lot more information. So try and do it using version 2 first, but remember, if you're struggling, you can have a quick flick and have a look at 2A to help you along your way. I will come round and help you.